What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I actually did as well. Um, that's right, I said it. That's what I call this channel. Why do I call it that? Well, the reason why is because I talk about stuff on here that most folks would never talk about because they're absolutely too embarrassed to talk about. Okay? So if you're looking for cool transitions, cool editing, some larger than life figure that's sitting in this massive high dollar studio with headphones and a mic in front of me, and I've got a producer sitting over to the side. He's over there tweaking levels and, talking to me on the back burners. If you're looking for that, I'm probably the wrong guy, because I'm a real guy. Not just physically sitting here, but a real life guy with a real life drug addiction that I've battled most of my life. And I talk about those experiences that I've had with drugs. Obviously, most were negative. Usually, any experiences that are synonymous with drug use oftentimes are negative, other than the good feeling you might get while you're under the influence of that drug. But usually, how your drug use affects others and the reactions that you get to some of the messed up things you do in active drug addiction are typically negative. And I have a lot of those. All I ask is, if you like this sort of format, just some guy just sitting here shooting the shit with you, just being honest, we're friends. You guys are people who share things in common with me that are similar to some of the things that I have gone through. And we talk about those things on this channel. You guys share your own stories with me in your comments. I love that, by the way. But if you're watching my videos, it's a free service. All I ask is, don't be that guy that goes up to the counter, grabs the candy out of the jar, and then doesn't drop a quarter in. You're right. No employees are looking. The cashier's probably not looking. You could probably get by with it. No one's going to call you on it. But do you really want to be that guy? In active drug addiction, I probably would have been that guy. As long as no one was looking, I didn't do anything wrong, right? And we've all kind of had that mindset at some point throughout our life. Nobody catches you doing it, you didn't do anything wrong, right? Well, in this case, all I ask is, I try to make these videos as entertaining as possible. Hopefully you'll see some of the experiences and hear some of the experiences that I've gone through, and some of those will resonate with you. You can relate to some of those, and you'll be able to see through me that, you know what? You do grow in life. You do expand your horizons in life. No matter what people might say regarding drug addiction or anything else, you can move past things in life, and negative things in life specifically. And if you like this sort of format, don't take the candy and not leave the quarter. Take the candy, drop a quarter. Subscribe to the channel. That's my long, drawn out way of saying, just subscribe to the channel. It helps me out. If you enjoy listening to a guy talk about some crazy shit that he's done during drug addiction. And I also talk about, some things currently as well, like kratom use. The only thing I do these days is kratom. Pretty small amount. I'm somewhere between 9-10 grams a day. Sometimes on the weekend I might go a little overboard on that. But throughout the week I stick to around 9-10 grams per day of kratom. Seems to be working pretty well for me at the moment. I'm sure I'm going to get some haters in the comments eventually if I don't say that I'm looking to come off of it altogether. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I haven't really decided, because I get a lot of positive benefits from kratom as well. So we'll see where we are with that. But moving on, I want to move to another story. The last time we did a video, I was up to about maybe 29, 30 years old. And I had gotten to a point for the first time in my life where I can say I was officially addicted to narcotics and opiates, meaning when I went to stop taking them, I was in full-on physical post-acute withdrawals at this point. So I'm officially hooked on opiates at this point. And I thought to myself, you know what? I could just keep moving forward. There's so many stories to tell that I literally could just start recording at 6 o'clock every morning and could stop at 10 o'clock every night. And I could do this every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the next 10 years. And I probably still wouldn't get through all of the stories that I have as they relate to drug addiction. I have a life that's filled with it, you know, and most drug addicts do. So with that said, I thought to myself, you know, why don't I just jump around a little bit? It doesn't necessarily have to go in sequential order, you know, because the beginnings of drug use for me started out at a very, very young age. You know, I consider my earliest drug use being exposed to pornography, you know, because that was like a drug for me. And I talked about how I learned to objectify women in a very negative way, and that affected, you know, most, if not all, of my relationships growing up, and even when I was an adult as well. And I've, you know, that is probably my first experience of what I would consider drug. You know, and a lot of people would disagree. Well, oh man, that's porn. That's not a drug. You know, porn's not a drug. Maybe not for you, porn was not a drug, but for me, porn was absolutely a drug. And women were just an extension of that. And, you know, my promiscuity as I was growing up and then on into my early and, you know, 20s and 30s was also an extension of that same addiction to women, to porn. You know, it's all the same shit. It's all an addiction. So I decided I wanted to backstep a little bit, and this particular story that I'm getting ready to tell you guys comes from, I would say I was a senior in high school at this time. I've got them back pretty young. And this particular one, so I've expressed before how my parents both receive a prescription for klonopin. And they still do to this day, in fact. The difference is I don't steal them anymore. But in my younger days, in my high school days, there were times where I actually stole some klonopin from my parents. Now, I at some point had learned that these were some very heavy muscle relaxers, and that if you took one or two of them, it gave you that very high feeling. And, you know, as a drug addict in training when I was in high school, I loved that. That was awesome. I loved that feeling. So, I had a few experiences where I went a little overboard, and by a little, I mean a lot overboard with klonopin. And I'm going to share one of those experiences with you right now. So I'm a senior in high school. One Friday night, I take either 2 or 3 1 milligram klonopin. And I'm not a person who takes these at this period of my life. Well, never really. I've never had a prescription for klonopin. This is just one of those things I've taken, you know, a few handfuls of times in my life. I've taken them, you know, if I didn't have anything else and if I had some klonopin I could get a hold of, I would take them. But I've never had a prescription for it. It was never one of those things that I just took on a regular, ongoing basis. And it was the same then, when this story actually took place. And so I stole a few klonopin from my parents one Friday night, and we had a football game at my high school. And I remember going to this home football game at my high school, and surely I didn't drive after having taken these klonopin. Because I have tried to drive a car after taking klonopin before, and it did not go well. Luckily, I didn't wreck the car or hurt anyone, but it was close. It was close. If you get too inebriated or intoxicated on something like klonopin, a muscle relaxer, it will severely mess with your balance, coordination, physical motor function, all those things. So I think what I did was I brought these klonopin with me, and when I got to the football game, I took the klonopin. All right. So I'm up in the stands, and I'm a senior, and there's this girl there that I had seen at school a few times. She was a couple of years younger than me, but she was cute. She was cute, and I had noticed her at school. And what's more is she actually ran in the same circle of a couple of guys that I knew really well, and they were twins. I'm not going to give anybody's name on this channel, but these two twins, I used to hang out with them when I was in high school, and they knew this little girl because they went to, like, I guess middle school with her. And so when she came to my school, I got introduced to her because she knew the twins, and I hung out with these twins. Okay, so somehow I end up in the bleachers, and I'm sitting near this girl, right, that I'm talking about. And I thought she was cute. And in high school, you know, I had already been sexually active, and I'd already had, you know, a few partners. I mean, I could count it on one hand probably at that point. Well, maybe not by the time I was a senior. Maybe 5 or 6 women, something like that. But I'd only had a couple of actual sexual relationships. You know, a couple of these instances were just encounters where it's like a, you know, like a one-night stand sort of situation. I was sexually active with a girl, and then I just never really saw her or talked to her after that. I know it sounds terrible, but I was a young, horny kid who also had a porn addiction. And so you can imagine how my sexual encounters were at this age. And I'd had maybe one girlfriend that I dated for, you know, maybe a year or so, and her and I, of course, were sexually active, and that was probably the only sexual relationship that I had at that point, and everything else had just kind of been one-off encounters. Well, I was single at this time, and I go to this football game, and there's this girl there. Somehow I end up, you know, sitting close to her on the bleachers. And when I tell you, I do not remember jack shit about this game that night. That is exactly what I mean. I was in no way interested in the football game. And even if I had been interested in the football game, I wouldn't have remembered much because I was out of my gourd, high on klonopin. Okay? I mean, I was enough to still be, you know, interacting with people and coherent and stuff like that, but there is no doubt in my mind, looking back on it, that those around me had to be looking, going, what the fuck is Corey doing? You know, this, I mean, I had to have been acting in a way that was probably not typical for me. So anybody that was around me that kind of knew anything about me probably knew that. But then again, you know, these are young kids, you know, so a lot of them at that age are, you know, a little bit naive. I mean, a lot of them probably just thought I was acting stupid, just whatever, just being an immature kid. But nonetheless, I'm up there, and I get on this kick where I'm just flirting with this girl, heavily flirting with this girl. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but obviously I kept talking to her, you know, and just, she turned around, I kept talking to her. The thing about it is my recollection of it is she was talking back to me. She kept, you know, every time I asked her something, she was talking back. She seemed to have an interest in, you know, my talking to her. And, you know, I was a popular kid. I was a little hellion, but I was a popular kid. You know, I was popular with the girls, and, you know, with the guys too. But you know, with the girls is kind of how I identified myself as at that point. And she was talking back. You know, my perception at that time was, yeah, she's digging me. You know, this is going well, right? This is going well. And you'll see where this is going in a few minutes, how looking back on it now, I realize that I was absolutely 1000% completely clueless about what I was doing in these moments. And when you hear the end of this story, you'll know why. All right, so if the details are scattered, there's a reason for that. Klonopin, especially taken in large amounts, you will literally, much like alcohol, get to a point where you just kind of start losing time and you start losing memories, and you'll just go through periods of time where you're like, I don't know what the fuck happened from 8 to 9 or from 9 to 10. I have no freaking clue. I remember this happening at 10:30, but then after that, I don't remember shit. You'll have those sort of experiences if taking a large amount of something like Klonopin. All right. Well, I was there. That was me. I was a young kid, and this was a one-off for me. And I'd only taken these, you know, a handful of times. So I didn't have any sort of like major tolerance to Klonopin. And not only that, but you're not supposed to take 2-3 Klonopin. In fact, you know, a lot of people who take them responsibly, when it comes to like a 1 milligram Klonopin, they'll take the 1 milligram Klonopin, break it in half, take it, and then that's supposed to help them with like restless leg syndrome at night, that sort of thing, you know? So I had taken 2, 3, perhaps 4 times the amount that I probably should have been taking to actually fix an issue like restless legs, you know? So again, goes back to the drug addict abusive behavior. My intention was to abuse the Klonopin, to get as high as I could without killing myself. That's basically what I did. And so if everything sounds scattered, that's why, because I only remember like bits and pieces. So we're there at this football game. I keep talking to this girl. There were other people around me, you know, some people adults, some people kind of kids. It kind of went under the radar. You know, you're at a loud football game, so it's not like everybody just stopped and pointed and, oh, look at this guy, he's fucked up. No, it was, you know, typical chaos of a Friday night football game. So the way I was acting was, I'm sure, kind of went up under the radar, because nobody ever said anything like, hey dude, you okay? Are you fucked up? You know, have you taken something? You know, nobody ever said anything. But anyway, I just remember that I'm talking to and going over the top, talking to and flirting with this girl the whole time that I'm in the bleachers. All right. Trying to get to know this girl because I thought she was cute. So eventually the game's over with, and there's a section of our school that's like or the school that I went to high school at. There's like a courtyard section of that school, and the parking lot for where people would park, and students and, you know, even parents would park for going to like a football game, was on the other side of this courtyard. So for example, there's a couple of different ways to get to this parking lot. One way was on the dirt road that went out like kind of beside the field, you know, past where the weight room was. But then you could also kind of take a shortcut to cut through the school itself, through this courtyard that I'm referring to, and then you could get to that same parking lot around the other side of the school, just kind of taking a shorter way. So I had a couple of friends with me, and we walked up through this courtyard. Okay, so we're standing there in this courtyard, just maybe, you know, I don't know, 200-300 feet from the entrance to the actual parking lot where all the cars and everything were. And I'm standing there, and I do remember by this point, because, I took these klonopin, like, at the very beginning before the football game even started. So I do remember by this time that the game was over with and I'm standing in this courtyard with a couple of my friends. By this point, I'm kind of starting to come down a little bit. So I'm not quite as high on the klonopin as I was, perhaps an hour, 2 hours before. Because it had been probably, I'm going to say at this point, it had probably been 3 hours or more since I had actually, taken the klonopin. So I'm sitting up there in the courtyard, and these few guys that I knew walked through. One of the guys, I knew he played on our football team. He was on the varsity football team. I knew him. He came walking through, had 2 or 3 more guys walking with him. And then there's this other guy, kind of a little shorter guy, walking with them. And I'm standing there, just minding my own business. And I see all them, kind of walk up. They're walking in my general direction, but not necessarily right at me. But then the one kid, who I didn't really know exactly who he was. I can't remember if I knew exactly who he was in terms of he's the little brother of this football player that plays on our football team, right? But when I say little brother, I mean he's little. He's little. He's several years younger than me. At this time, I'm a pretty decent sized kid. I'm probably 5'11", 6 foot, maybe 170, 175 pounds in high school. So I'm a decent sized kid. This kid, at best, maybe 5'6", $140, $135, $140. I mean, little bitty, tiny kid. Well, I see him walking, kind of to the left of me. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see this kid's arm go up like this and him close in on me. This kid swings on me, tries to hit me, right? And when I tell you I was not even looking at him, I saw this happen out of my peripheral vision. Luckily, I saw it in time where I kind of went like this, and he, somewhat missed. And like I shared, I'm not an aggressive, violent guy. I never was. I got maybe 2 fights in the whole time I was in high school, and those were situations where I felt like I had to defend myself. So it's what I did, was I defended myself. But I was not the type of guy that was just a violent, aggressive sort of guy. Well, this kid just out of nowhere swings on me and it's just keeps swinging, trying to beat my ass, man. And I didn't even know who he was, and I didn't learn who he was until later on. And fortunately, he was small enough to where I basically just, after he swung a few times, I eventually just grabbed a hold of him like this, and I like bear hugged him, right? And I was like, hey, and the guys that he walked up with, who I knew, a couple of them, they were in my grade. One of them was a senior. He was in my grade. And I told him, I was like, because I saw him walking with them, so I knew he was with them. And I was like, come get your boy. Come get your boy. And they walk over, and they're like, come here. They said his name. I'm not going to say his name. And they say his name. He's like, come here, man. And a couple of the guys didn't really know why this happened, and were also friends with me, because I was friends with everybody. I wasn't like this guy who was just all these people's enemy. People generally liked me, other than just a couple of people here and there who were like haters of me, but I was a likable, popular guy at my school. And so a couple of the guys I knew, and a couple of the guys walked up to me afterwards like, you okay, man? They felt bad for me, because they were like, they knew that he just like tried to bum rush me. He just swung on me. It wasn't no, I walk up in your face and I got a problem with you, this and that and the other, let's fight. It was, he's walking, and then as soon as I almost see him get past me, he comes towards me and he's already swinging. And I was like, whoa, that sort of thing. Luckily, he was a little kid, and I was able to just kind of physically control him. Well, now let me tell you the backstory. Why this kid did this. So, the girl that I spent the whole football game sitting there flirting with and talking to and probably touching her on her arm. I don't know what all I was doing. But I was heavily flirting with her. This was her little boyfriend. And apparently, this kid was sitting beside her. And when I say beside her, I mean beside her the whole time. It was her, then he was right there. And here I am, you know, and he's a couple of years younger than me too, smaller, you know. And this is one of those things, I look back on it now, and I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. You know, at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that he was, and then this little girl too is, I mean, she had to have just been dumb as a rock, because here's this older, like, upper class guy, you know, this popular guy sitting there flirting with her, and she's got her little same age tiny boyfriend sitting beside her. And I swear this little girl was talking to me the whole time. She barely looked at him. So what was happening apparently was I'm sitting there flirting with his girlfriend right in front of him. Now I will say I did not know that was his girlfriend. I had no clue, because I'm not that type of dude, and I've never been that type of dude. Even in my highest level of drug addiction and just being stupid with drugs or fucked up on something, I've just never been that sort of guy, you know. I respect all guys, and I'm one of those people that I've been picked on before by guys, and I've been bullied before, and I've talked about that on this channel, and I hated that feeling, you know, and I never would want to be that to someone else, you know. So I was not at all purposely trying to make this guy feel this way. But what had happened apparently was this little tiny guy is sitting there the whole time, and then there's this bigger, popular, upperclassman who's sitting there flirting, mad flirting with his girlfriend the whole time. And so what's happening is he's sitting there getting more angry and more angry and more angry, and he's just stewing and stewing and stewing. And what happened was, at that time, he didn't do anything. And looking back on it now, I know why he didn't do anything. It was just him. It was just his girl, you know, and we were on the bleachers. He wasn't going to try to step up to me. I'm a bigger guy than he was. And he didn't want to take an ass whooping in front of his girlfriend, his little girlfriend, you know. So he waited. I don't blame him. He waited. And then afterwards, when she wasn't around, he goes and he gets his older brother, who's on the football team, and a couple of more of his upper class friends, and they walk out there with him, and then he throws hands on me, right? And it was one of those where I'm friends with these guys, and it turns out his older brother was the guy I was talking about that was on the football team, and I knew him. I didn't know him well, but I knew him, and he knew of me. And fortunately for me, you know, they all liked me. It was just something that, you know, they wanted to make sure that the little brother wasn't going to go up there and get his ass beat by some upperclassman. Nobody jumped in. Nobody, like, jumped in and tried to help him, or, you know, so I appreciated that. I respected that, because there was like 4 or 5 of them fuckers. It was just me. But they sat and watched him, you know, try to swing on me. And so what he did was he sat there and he got angry and he got mad the whole time. And then he, after everything was over with, he went and got his people, and he wanted to come up there and try to fight me. Never turned out to be anything. They came and got him. We kind of all talked about it a little bit, and that's when I learned that the girl that I had been flirting with the whole time is supposedly his little girlfriend. I didn't know this, right? And so I feel like an asshole. And it's funny because this same guy that I'm talking about reached out to me via Facebook Messenger, like probably 6 months ago or something, My wife and I sing and play instruments. You know, I play instruments and my wife sings, and we had posted some video of us on Facebook or something, and he reached out to me. He was like, hey man, I just want to say I'm sorry about, you know, I know we had some problems back in the day, but that was just some, you know, young childish shit, you know, sorry about that. Because he remembers the time he swung on me, you know. And I was thinking, you know, nah dude, it's all good, I'm sorry. And I actually didn't tell him that I was high on klonopin. I should have told him that. But it's funny, he ended up apologizing to me. I probably should have apologized to that kid, because I was so ripped out of my gourd on klonopin. I'm a pretty socially intelligent individual, you know, and I can pretty much pick out how someone's feeling in any given moment. I'm very emotionally in touch with people. In a sober mindset, I would have probably noticed that they were together, but then again, he sat there and didn't say anything the whole time. He didn't say anything. Hey dude, that's, you know, this is my girlfriend. And if he would have, I would have immediately backed off. Like, oh, sorry dude, you know, I would have. Even being fucked up on klonopin, I absolutely would have backed off. I'm just that type of guy. He didn't say anything. I kept flirting. He's sitting there stewing in his anger the whole time, and then that ended up going down after the game. So there's another interesting story, interesting tale from the dark side as a result of my drug use. I'll have another one for you the next time. And I appreciate you guys. Let me know any crazy experiences you might have had in the comments below that were a result of your drug use or going overboard with drugs. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace.